Hey guys, in this week's video I'm going to give you some sub-bass mixing techniques that I discovered by analysing some of Marshmello's tracks. This video is going to really help you getting your kick to stand out in a mix that's already got a lot of sub-frequencies, just like Marshmello's music. So without further ado, let's do this. Okay guys, so let me just explain exactly what this video is about. I've noticed that in a lot of Marshmello's tracks, his kick drum has got a lot of thump to it. What I mean by that is it's got a lot of sub-frequencies. Often you don't really hear the sub-frequencies, you just feel them more than anything. And I've noticed that in his tracks there's a lot of thump to his kick drum, which I find crazy because his tracks are so sub-heavy already. And when you've already got a lot of sub going on, it's even harder to make your kick thump through the mix. The other thing is, Marshmello's tracks are so compressed, and when a track is compressed there's less dynamics and there's less room for the kick to thump through. And anybody out there who's ever tried mastering their own music will notice this. It's really hard to get a really thick, compressed sound that's really loud and have your kick drum really thump through. So if you've ever found yourself in this position, this video might actually give you some tricks and tips on how Marshmello goes about doing this. Okay, so let's have a look and I'll tell you exactly what I'm talking about. So on the screen here we've got Marshmello's track Alone, and I've got it set to the drop here, so if I press play you'll hear the drop of the song. Perfect, so there's the song there. Now, the first thing I want to address is the fact that this song is so compressed. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you on my master. I've got two plugins that are going to kind of demonstrate this. The first plugin I've got is this thing here called ELECTRO, which doesn't do anything other than just show you the wave files. So it's basically just going to mimic what we can already see on the screen. It's just I'm going to play the song and you're going to see the wave files, and you're going to see it looks like a sausage. There's no dynamics. And when I say dynamics, I'm basically saying the difference between the quietest and loudest part of a song. So if you have a look at it, it's just a thick, like a squished sound. Whereas if I was to go to a different part of the song, maybe this bit here, which has clearly got more dynamics, you'll see, as you can see on the wave files in Ableton, and if I play it here, you'll see there's just more movement, there's more kind of, the waves go higher and lower basically. You can see there's quieter parts and louder parts. Okay guys, so another plugin that's really good at seeing the dynamic range of a song is a plugin called the Dynamic Range Meter, which will literally tell you the difference between the quietest part and the loudest part of a song. Now, on a song that's really dynamic, it will be about 12 decibels, so the difference between the loudest and quietest, but on a really compressed song, it could be as low as 6 or even 5. Well, Marshmello in his drop actually goes almost as low as 4 at certain points, which means there's no difference between the quietest and loudest part of his song. So let's just have a look at it here on a slightly more dynamic part of the song. So if I press play, you'll see it's around 7 or 8, okay, and that's on the quieter part of his song. But if I go to the drop and I do the same thing, you'll notice that the dynamic range is almost as low as 4. You can see it's down around 4.2, around 5. It's really, really compressed. So there we go guys, we now know that Marshmello's tracks are ridiculously compressed and really loud. So the question is, how does he get his kick drum to really punch through in the mix? Well, the secret lies in the sub-frequencies. So what you can do is you can put an EQ on your master and you can cut all the higher frequencies down to 120. So you're just left with the sub-frequencies. So what I've done here is I've just done exactly that. I've just got the sub-frequencies running and I've got these two plugins still running. Have a look at this ELECTRO here now. Remember, before it was just a sausage, and have a look what happens if you just run the sub-frequencies of a Marshmello track through it. Notice how all of a sudden there's these huge dynamic spikes where the kick drum is, and that is exactly the thing that's causing that kick drum to kick through in the mix. Even though the entire song is just one thick sausage, when you look at just the sub frequencies, there's a huge amount of dynamics. It's the bass running, and when the kick drum hits, there's a huge spike. Have a look again. All of a sudden, there's a lot more dynamics going on, which can give us a really good tip as to what we can do with our music to make that kick really stand out. So, how would you apply this to one of your own mixes and own mastering sessions? Well, any of you who have seen my mixing and mastering course at beginnerabletonlessons.com will know that I'm a big fan of mixing a project in a separate project to mastering a project. So it all starts with doing the final mix down. And the one tip I can give you that will really help you with your mixes is make sure as you're going along, you're always checking the sub frequencies. And all you can do is on your master chain, have an EQ like this that's cut down to 120 Hz, and especially when you're mixing your kick and your bass, cut it down to 120 Hz and A/B it to a track like Marshmello's or to a track that you really like, and listen to just the sub frequencies to see if your kick kicks through the mix as much as your favorite artists. So when I say A/B, obviously I mean listen to your favorite artist song, listen to your own song, flick back and forth, just listening to the sub frequencies, and mix to an extent where you can hear your kick drum kicking through. And by the way, another little tip for you guys, if you want a really good plugin for A/B-ing your mixes, you can get something called a Magic A/B, which is really cool. Let me just show you it quickly. It looks like this. You can load different tracks onto these different sections here, and you can literally A/B back and forth between your track and one of your favorite artist tracks. So that's a really cool little plugin for you there. Now, of course, there's other little techniques you can use to help your kick stand out, like side chaining it, so when the kick hits, all of the bass frequencies dip away. But actually, all we're really talking about here is volume levels, making sure that your kick is loud enough that it stands out and stands on top of the bass when it comes through. So I'm just going to A/B this to a track I made. My track sounds a little bit like this. Okay, and if I cut down just to the sub frequencies and listen to it, all I'm listening to is if that kick stands out through the sub frequencies. And by the way guys, if you're listening to this on a phone or small speakers, you're probably not going to hear this. In order to hear these sub frequencies, you're going to have to listen to it through good speakers or good headphones. And ideally, you'd have a subwoofer system in your room. Or something else that's really, really cool is the sub pack, where you can put it on the back of your chair and you can actually feel these frequencies coming through. So you've got to make sure you're listening to this on good speakers for this tip to work. And by the way, if you don't have a good sound system or good headphones, that's always going to hinder your mix, because you're not going to be able to get these sub frequencies sounding as good as they could. So I've already mixed my track, but all I'm going to do now is compare my kick and bass to Marshmello's. So let's listen to mine. And I'm going to listen to Marshmello's. Obviously I've already mixed this and I'm already happy with it, but if you listen to the two next to each other, you'll hear that that sub frequency has really got the same kind of punch to it as a Marshmello track. Which means that even after I've completely finished this song and mastered it, I know the sub frequencies are exactly where they need to be, and that kick will still thump through in the mix, because when I just listen to the sub frequencies, it's kicking through just as much as a Marshmello song. So this is a little tip for you guys I reckon you could take forward, is always listen to your sub frequencies and always A/B your sub frequencies to an artist who you want your tracks to sound like. So there we go guys, I hope that trick has helped. I've got hundreds more tricks and tips like this on my course at Beginner Ableton Lessons. I've got a beginner course, I've got an advanced course, and I've got a mixing and mastering course. All this stuff is covered in my mixing and mastering course, where I will help you take your track to sounding as loud and as professional as any of the artists you listen to. So there we go, guys. It's a really interesting little thing that I discovered, and I thought I'd share it with you guys. If you like the video, make sure you give it a like. If you agree, make sure you leave a comment, or if you've got your own little techniques for mixing sub bass, I'd love to hear about it. And guys, if you want to learn more about stuff like this, go and check out beginnerabletonlessons.com. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next week. Ciao.